Hey YouTube, welcome to the Scrub Club. I'm Mitchell.
I'm Brandon.
Again. We are a channel based entirely on trying to pull that last Bryonic. Let's get to the video. Today we'll be deck profiling Yosenju, because the other deck was way too expensive, so now let's do budget. Alright. The first card we're going to have is the Big Daddy, Mayosenju daibak. His main goal in the deck is to either normal summon or special summon himself by penduluming or tributing, and he just bounces stuff, and you can poke for 3k, so that's never bad. This is the pendulum build slash level 6 build, so I play one of each level 6 that's out. Misak is a really good card to get over things that have higher attack than you can deal with, even with tsujik, which is the honest of this deck. And then magat is a really good way to get into cards that you don't have in hand. Like say you open comma 1 and 2, but you want the 3. You go normal comma 1, normal comma 2, comma 2 to special, or to normal this guy, and then he specials comma 3 from deck, and that bounces to your hand at end phase, so you have it for next turn.
No, does it?
Yes. Brandon's reading.
No, it has to be normal summon.
Oh, you're right. My bad.
It's fine, yeah.
Then we play 3 comma 1. What comma 1 does is if you control another face-up Yosenju monster, besides himself, you can bounce one face-up card your opponent controls to their hand. That's helpful for getting rid of big threats or just getting more damage in. Speaking of damage, here's the guy, one of the main 3 with the biggest attack. This is Yosenju comma 2.
You only run 2 of them?
You only run 2 because his main goal is to get searches off when you have your searcher out, because your searcher searches when you have damage against your opponent. And his effect is he can attack directly, but all damage is halved. And even when he attacks directly, if there's no monsters on field, his damage is halved, the downside. Next, we play 3 of the Searcher. What he does is the same thing as all the other Yosenju, where when it's normal, you can normal another one immediately after this effect resolves. And what he does is, if I deal damage to you, if you were my opponent, with any Yosenju monster that's not this guy, he gets to search any Yosenju card from my deck. Those are the 4s, and now I'll show you the pendulum scales. We have the shinchu left and shinchu right. You play 2 of each in this build. Shinchu left, his effect when he's in the pendulum zone is whenever a Yosenju parentheses S would be destroyed, you can destroy him instead. He's really helpful for protecting things, and when he's on the field, you can't target any Yosenju monsters besides him for card effects. Saren Shinchu changes its pendulum scale to 11, so you can special summon daibak off of it. And Shinchu Right's effect, when it's not in the pendulum scale, is that you can't target Yosenju monsters for attack besides this one. So they're good bodies to have on board if you already have 2 and they can't bounce back for some reason, be that fiendish chain or anything else.
Anyway, in correcting comma 2, if it does it does not have to have its its attack halved when it attacks directly.
It does not?
Only when it attacks by its effect directly.
Okay.
So just
my apologies.
That's what he said.
Yeah, I said a different thing. And then the last monster we play is Tsujik. Tsujik's a honest, and also he's another body you can get on board after your combo.
Your monster gains 1,000 attack and
defense. Yeah.
He's like a decisive armor.
Basically. That's it for the monsters. Spell lineup. We play 3 tenki because all of the level 4s are beast warriors, and it's really good to get into your deck as fast as possible. 3 pot of duality. This deck normal summons as many times as it wants to per turn, which is why we play pot of duality, because we don't have the drawback of not special summoning be as bad for us, because it's basically just free draw power. This card is one of the best. Free searching. This card is one of the best cards in the deck. It's Yosenju Training Ground, or Yosen Training Ground. Very important that it says Yosen and not Yosenju, because it can't be searched off of comma 3. What this card does is if it has 1 counter on it, its counter can be removed, and then all of your Yosenju monsters gain attack. And if it has 3 counters, you can remove all 3 to add a Yosenju spell or trap from your deck or graveyard to your hand. That's very important, because you'll be cycling through the counter trap as many times as you need to with this card if it's still on board. And how you add counters to this is if every time you normal or special summon any of the Yosenjus. Next we play 2 MST for obvious reasons. And then we play 1 Divine Winds and 1 Terraforming. The end phase, when they bounce back, it's always good to use Divine Winds effect to special summon one of the pendulum scales, because they're 21 defense bodies, and they're really helpful for keeping yourself alive while you wait for next turn to combo into a kill. Last spell we play is Snatch Steal, because it's Snatch Steal. Onto the traps, we play 3 of the Counter Trap. The Counter Trap is like one of the best cards in this deck. What it does is it negates the activation of spells, traps, and monster effects, as long as you control a face-up Yosenju card. Doesn't matter if it's a monster or a pendulum scale. It says all monsters you have face-up have to be Yosenju to activate this effect, but you don't have to control any monsters to activate it. So if you just have one side of the pendulum scale and this card's set, if you don't have any monsters, as long as none of the monsters you control are not Yosenju, you can activate it. I play 2 Magical Cylinder. It might be a scrub.
Magic Cylinder.
My bad. It might be a scrub card, but I like it because there's a lot more like removal in this deck via bouncing and spinning cards with Comma 1's effect and daibak's effect, so you don't really need these would be replacing my D prisons, but I like this a lot better.
I kind of like that better because it does damage and it's still protection.
Exactly. And then 2 Vanity's Emptiness, because every deck now is running Vanities basically. And what this does for us is we still can get our normal summons as many times as we need to, and our cards usually don't go to grave that often, so this usually stays live for at least a turn or 2. After that, we run 2 Fiendish Chain for effect negation in addition, and then after that, 1 Bottomless and 1 Compulse. And that's it for the main deck. I'll be moving on now to the deck. Our side deck, we play 2 Wiretap, just in case we run into a deck that has a lot of back row. After that, we play 2 Imperial Ironwall, because the new deck, Spiritual Beasts, relies a lot on banishing to search, and it also stops the searches with Necros when they banish their spell cards from grave, and it doesn't really hurt us, so I figure why not play it. 2 of each mirror. Light Mirror, just for the odd Satellar Knight matchup you might run into Light Imprisoning, because there are dark decks out there, and yeah, it's always good to make sure your opponent can't do anything so you can. 2 Prohibition, the scrub side deck card of choice. It's good just in case you don't have anything else to side against your opponent, like they're playing something that you can't really stop with your side deck, so you have that just in case you notice in the first game a card that they rely on, so you get rid of that. 2 Soul Release helps against Lightsworn and a lot of other decks that rely on cards in grave to activate their effects.
Satellar Knights, Burning Abyss.
Necros even, because you banish their spells before they get the effect the chance to activate their effect. 2 Spell Shattering Arrow for Klee. I like it over Fairy Wind. I don't really have a good explanation for it, I just like it better, and I own them, so that's always a plus. And then a DD Crow, because it's the last card I have. Onto the extra deck. The extra deck, I run 1 rank 6, and that would be Photon Strike Bouncer, because there's those times where you sometimes have Magat and Misak on field, and you have really nothing better to do than to overlay for Photon Strike Bouncer. Abyss Dweller, because everyone has one now. Basically just staple rank 4s. 101, Cast, Exciton. Oh, sorry, forgot to put that back there. Exciton, and then the main card in this deck that's like sort of deck specific is Lightning Chidori. Lightning Chidori's always been one of my favorite cards. I like it a lot. You might not be able to see it in the camera.
There we go.
Yeah, basically what that does is if you have a card, like if your opponent has a card on board that they just set out of desperation, that you want to make sure that they draw again to set them back, you make Lightning Chidori. Plus it helps get rid of back row sometimes, where they'll be having to activate it to dodge the effect. This is also somewhat deck specific. It's the Tiger King. It's basically there to get a Tenki, and as a 22 body. Plus,
it can negate effects.
Yeah, it can negate effects. And then the rest of them are just staple rank 4s, being Steel Swarm Roach,
Heartland Draco,
Karen Gorgon, Augusto Emerald. If you run into those times where you actually have a graveyard in this deck, bouncing and drawing. or not bouncing, shuffling and drawing. A Gaga Cowboy to burn for game. A Black Ship to get rid of problem cards. Rhapsody to get rid of problem cards in the graveyard. And a Ragna Zero, just in case you run into anything that has weird amounts of attack, like Please.
Would you have taken out Emerald or a Roach for another Lightning Chidori?
I like Lightning Chidori a lot, but I find it's better at like 1 to 2. If I had to take out anything, I would probably take out Draco, because I find I'm not using it as often as I thought I would. It's good because you do have a lot of spells that stay on board, and so it can't, like, it protects itself a little bit, but if I had the other Lightning Chidori, I'd probably test it that way.
Okay, cool. That's deck profile.
So you guys.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. See ya.